What's going on, my dudes? It's your boy, Beardson Beardly. Long time no see. Sorry, I've been really sick, but I'm back. I'm healthy. I've got fire pumping through my veins, and I'm ready to make more content for you guys. I'm sorry. But today we're going to talk about a game that I recently have rediscovered through sheer chance. I just happened to be out shopping, looking around, doing some retro game hunting, which I usually always come up short because I live in the middle of Kentucky and there's absolutely nothing here. I have been trying to buy a PlayStation Vita for over a month, and I've just had zero luck. But for some reason, the other day, I got super lucky and I found a copy of a game that I played as a wee little lad back in the day that really stuck with me for a long time, and I've just sort of memory hold it for a while, and that is Dark Cloud 2 for the PlayStation 2. You guys know me. I love my PlayStation 2 games. I love me some obscure RPGs for the PlayStation 2. And I don't know how obscure this game is. I feel like it's pretty popular, but either way, I wanted to do a video about it because I just don't feel like anybody truly understands how great and deep and incredible this game really is. I'm shocked that this game isn't talked about more, and I'm shocked that there was never a sequel to Dark Cloud 2 because I feel like this game was, for the time, and even still today, very revolutionary. And it did a lot of things that I think that, you know, a sequel, a modern sequel, if done right and held true to some of these systems, it would just be incredible. But, you know, unfortunately, the game industry sucks, and it's ran by people who hate games and didn't grow up playing games like Dark Cloud 2. So, unfortunately, I don't think that that's ever going to happen. But if we could even get a remaster, I think that would be awesome of Dark Cloud 1 and 2 because they're both incredible games. But today we're going to talk specifically about Dark Cloud 2 because I just feel like it's the better game in every way, in every regard. I love Dark Cloud 1. I remember buying Dark Cloud 1 right when it came out for the PS2 because it was one of like the first kind of like RPGs for the system. Like when the system launched, you really didn't have a whole lot to play other than like Eternal Ring, which is Eternal Ring's really awesome, and I'll probably do a video about that and a lot of the FromSoft games in the future. And what was it, Summoner, which really wasn't that good, really wasn't that great. But you know, Dark Cloud came out, and it was again pretty revolutionary for the time. I'm not gonna like capture any footage for it because I don't feel like it. Because, dude, I've been trying to make this video for 2 days, and I recorded so much footage for this one. I was like, we're just gonna run it. But Dark Cloud 1 was great because it was this kind of like open world dungeon crawler, very reminiscent of Zelda in a lot of ways with the targeting system and the combat. But what was cool about it was you got to build towns. You'd go into the dungeon and you'd find pieces for a town in these dungeons, whether it be like decorations or whether it would be buildings and shops and things like that. And that's kind of how you progressed your character in a lot of ways. And it was really cool. And you kind of got to build several different towns and customize them kind of how you wanted to. And the dungeon crawling was really cool. It was a simple game, but it was really cool. And then, so when Dark Cloud 2 came out when I was a kid, I was pretty hyped for it, especially because, you know, I was reading my old electronic game monthly magazines. I was a big EGM guy. EGM and PlayStation Magazine, that was my two go-tos. Every now and again, I'd pick up a Game Pro. But I saw the graphics, and it was cel-shaded, a la like Wind Waker and Jet Grind Radio. And I loved that art style as a kid. I still love that art style to this day. I think it's still an amazing art style to be used. And I saw the art style, I was like, okay, I'm sold. Like, I'm buying this day one, and I did. It was such an awesome game. Like, the art style alone. You know, you look at modern games today, and, you know, I've had a lot of people, I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. It was like, Yeah, modern graphics don't seem nearly as good. It's like, it's not that the graphics aren't good or the textures aren't better or the shading and the effects aren't better. It's just that there's no like definitive style to anything. Everything now has become this like hyper realistic slop where there's really no room for fantasy or imagination. And that's why games like Wind Waker or Dark Cloud 2, I think, really hold up still to this day, because at the end of the day, you know, video games are animation. Like, that's what you're looking at. And it's not that there isn't room for these more like hyper realistic games. It's just that, you know, when you have games with this specific art style, it's like very definitive and unique. I think that they kind of tend to be timeless in a lot of ways. And Dark Cloud 2 is no different. You know, obviously the processing and the graphical power of the PS2 wasn't quite up to snuff with something like the GameCube, which came out later. So it's not like a full-on cell shading, but I also kind of really like this look too. It's just sort of like pseudo cell shading, where the environment is sort of like rendered normally, but the characters are kind of like halfway cell shaded to sort of make them stand out a little bit more. I don't know what it is. Like, I can't really put my finger on it, but it looks really cool. It looks like very, I don't know, whimsical and cozy. And that's another thing that this game does in spades. It's so cozy. You know, the opening town, even like the dungeons, the characters, the music, everything about it is like super cozy for some reason. It's, you know, some of my favorite games are the kinds of games where you want to live in the world that the game takes place in, and Dark Cloud 2 is really no different in that regard. This is a world, I'd love to like be there. I'd love to live in this world. This is a place that like I want to spend time in. I want to go and just explore and do things. And Dark Cloud 2 nails that aesthetic. It nails it to the T. And you actually, I feel like, you know, really get to explore and really get to experience the world in a good and meaningful way. Unlike most games where it's like the environment is just sort of there. It's sort of like set dressing just to help progress the story along. This game actually really, you know, and we'll get into it here in a minute, but really allows you to get in and immerse yourself into the world. And it's awesome. And speaking of the story, you know, I don't think it's anything super special. You're the chosen one. The world's been destroyed. It's time for you to rebuild it. You know, pretty standard fare. But I think that there's enough happening, and the characters themselves really elevate what I'd say is a pretty, you know, average story into something that's a little bit better. I really like the characters in this game a lot. I like the main character, Max, a lot. I think, you know, he's a kid, and usually kids are like kind of annoying or, you know, frustrating, but he's pretty chill. He's an inventor, which plays into some of the gameplay mechanics. He tends to have a pretty good head on his shoulders. He's kind and considerate. He's, you know, and he's got like a cool little central mystery. He's trying to find his mom. He's trying to find, you know, where his mom is. So, and the villain too. The villain's awesome. Flotsam, the clown, you know, this guy's great. Like, he's such a cool villain, you know, he's just an evil clown, but with the voice acting, especially the performances from all of these characters, I think is what elevates it. I'm so used to when you play like PS2 or retro games enough, you get so used to voice acting just being terrible. I mean, just terrible. And so it's just really refreshing to play a game that I felt was like very adequately voice acted. Like, it felt believable and real, and the performances really added, I think, a layer of depth to the characters, which I really enjoyed. So, you know, again, nothing really to write home about story-wise, but it's good. It's pretty good, and it gives you a reason, and it gives you like proper motivation to continue on throughout the game. And, you know, the beginning of the game, it takes a minute to maybe sort of get warmed up, maybe a good 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so of kind of like dialogue and cutscenes, you know, typical standard like JRPG fare, I think, really, for most of these games. You know, one of the things that's refreshing about this game, and again, it could just come back to being so used to playing modern games like Monster Hunter, where it like hold your hand for 10 hours basically, is that this game kind of just drops you right in. You know, it tells you, here's the controls, here's how you attack, go at it, right? And there are tutorials, like there is like a help section if you're, you know, a dumb person and you can't figure out how to play a 20-year-old video game. You know, there's a little help section for you, but you know, otherwise it just kind of drops you right into the game. And the combat's nothing really too crazy. To be honest, it's pretty simple. You hit X to attack, circle to lock onto your opponents. You hold L1 and X to use your ranged weapon. And, you know, you can occasionally use items to, you know, destroy enemies with the square button, you know. That's really it. It's pretty simple. You don't have a whole lot of moves. You get like kind of a forward lunge and a little backwards backflip, kind of an evasive maneuver. And, you know, you can like pick up things and throw them at enemies. That's really about it though. It's not like super deep, admittedly. But I think the beauty of the combat comes in the form of the level up system, which this is, I think, the meat and potatoes of what makes Dark Cloud truly unique above a lot of other like JRPGs that I've played, dude. It's like you don't level up your character, you level up your weapons. And you do that, of course, by using them, and the weapons gain experience the more that you use them. And you don't get stats necessarily, you unlock the ability to apply stats to your weapon. So you get synthesis points. And what synthesis is basically you can take any item in this game almost, and you can synthesize it and turn it into stats to boost your weapon up, which is just the coolest system ever. You know, if you realize that you have like 20 antidotes or, you know, whatever, and you don't want to, you know, you don't think that you need all of those, you can synthesize some of them, turn them into like lightning attack stats for your weapon, and infuse the weapon with those antidotes and bump the lightning attack. And there's like so many different stats too. There's obviously raw attack, there's fire, lightning, wind, ice, there's holy, there's beast, and like scale, there's smash. I mean, so many different like types of stats that you can infuse into your weapon. And you can make, what's cool about it is you can kind of make different weapons for different situations or different dungeons. And you can also evolve the weapons, which I think is really cool too. If you meet certain specific stat criteria for your weapons, you can evolve them, and they even have like branching paths. So, you know, for instance, you start off with a wrench as your main melee weapon, and you level it up, and eventually you have two different paths. You can turn it to like an even stronger wrench, or you can turn it into the drill wrench, which, like, I don't know why you wouldn't pick that. That's just like such a cooler looking weapon, right? But it's this sort of depth, I think, that really sets Dark Cloud 2 apart from a lot of other JRPGs, where it's basically like, okay, you've leveled up and your stats increase and that's it. Or, you know, you get one skill point to spend on whatever you want, you know, that sort of stuff. That's kind of, I don't know, tried. Not that it's not a bad system, it's just, you know, we've seen it, you know? Dark Cloud 2, I've never seen anything like this before. And I think it's super unique, and it allows for a lot of like freedom and customizable options for you to kind of experiment with the game, which, like, that's kind of what makes this game, I think, really great, you know? And on top of that, the dungeon design, I think, is really good too. You know, typically you start off with one dungeon, you know, and you're out in the sewers. This is your first dungeon. But there's different floors. Like, think of it, I guess, the best way to describe the Dark Cloud 2 dungeons would be like very reminiscent of like something like Persona, you know, where you're sort of just moving from floor to floor, and each floor is completely randomly generated every time. Like, if you were to die and go back to the same floor, it's going to be completely different layout every single time. And basically your objective is you want to try to kill all the monsters, so that way you can get the key to move on to, you know, the next floor. And but there's a lot more going on with that. Of course, there's chests that you can open up and have items, and there's, you know, throwables that you can destroy in order to get items. And there's also like little random events that can happen too throughout everyone. There's obviously like a little pond where you can heal yourself to full. There's the angel and devil coin event that you might run into, where it's a 50-50 chance you flip a coin. If it's heads or an angel, then you might get more experience for free for your weapon, or it might heal you up to full. Or if you hit the devil, it might destroy your weapons and you have to repair the durability on your weapons, or it'll just blow up and take half your health, you know? So it's a kind of a gamble. There's also like I forget what they call it, the happy fun time clown or something that'll randomly pop up out of a chest, and he'll give you two options to pick from, two presents, and you know, one of them could be a weapon and one of them could just be like a potion or a piece of bread or something. But it's like these little things, and there's mimics, and there's even stronger mimics that you can run into that might pop up out of a chest. You never know. It's just little things like this too, I think, that really keep the dungeons feeling fresh. Because admittedly, I mean, yeah, you're going to be doing like 10 floors or 20 floors of the same dungeon, but there's enough, you know, there, and enough like randomness that I think it keeps it from feeling stale. So, you know, and again, like, you never know what kind of items are going to run. None of it's like really destined to spawn, because again, everything's completely random. So you could end up finding a new weapon in a chest, or maybe just a really great stat upgrade to synthesize for your weapon or something, or, you know, whatever. There's so much to run into and explore that it keeps the game just constantly, you just keep coming back for more. Like I only wanted to play this for like an hour when I was filming this video, but I ended up playing for like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm probably gonna keep playing some more, to be honest with you, because it's fun, dude. I love a good dungeon crawler, you know. I'm a big fan of dungeon crawlers, and this one just it scratches the itch for me, you know. There's enough to do, there's plenty to explore, and what's really cool too is that every floor has bonus objectives. So for instance, you could go about to enter a floor, and the bonus objective will be like, hey, don't use any healing items. This, you know, kill all the monsters without, you know, using any healing items. And another one could be, hey, only use your right hand weapon, your melee weapon, to kill everything. Or, you know, only use items to kill all the enemies on this floor. You know, things like that. And it's really cool because it gives you sort of a reason to go back and replay those old dungeons too, because once you collect those medals, then you can unlock more things and build your character up even more. And so it's a very rewarding system. It kind of changes the way that you play every floor too a little bit. It gives you motivation. And of course, you don't have to do these, but like, why wouldn't you, dude? You're a gamer, dude. Okay, we're gamers. We 100% complete everything, and we do all bonus objectives, right? Like, we're not, this isn't like Fortnite, okay, kiddies? Okay, we're hardcore gamers, and we're gonna do everything. We're gonna do it all, because that's who we are. So, you know, I really like the dungeon design in this game, and that's where you're gonna be spending like a majority of your time in this game, is in the dungeons, obviously. But another really cool thing, and there's so many systems in this game that I just think are very cool. Like, this game is really, I think, the total package, is because once you get about halfway through the first dungeon, and then you enter like a boss battle that you just can't win. You know, it's this giant elephant sent by Flotsam, the evil maniacal clown, and you can't beat this guy. You can't touch. Every time you hit him, it's like, nah, sorry, you're not strong enough. You're weak, and you suck. And then you get a robot that comes and helps you, and this robot is given to you. You get to pilot this robot, but before you do it, you also unlock another just awesome system in the game, which is the camera system. So basically, your first task is you got to build a battery pack for the robot, so that way you can use the robot and go fight the elephant. And the only way to do that is to invent a battery for this robot, which introduces you into the Invention system, which is, I mean, basically just like a fancy way of like saying a crafting system, right? Like that's what it is, you know, let's be honest. But you know, crafting wasn't like, this was pre-Minecraft where every game had to have crafting, you know? It's like 9 times out of 10 when I encounter crafting in a game now, I just like roll my eyes and I'm like, I don't, can you just make it for me? Like I'm tired of it. Every game on the planet has to have like a crafting system now for some reason. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if like the next like 2D Mario platformer, they're like, hey, you gotta craft everything, you know? You gotta craft blocks and mushrooms and stuff. You know, that's what I'm waiting for, to be honest. And this game does have it, but it's not bad. Like it's a cool system. I like it in this game because the way that you come up with the recipes for crafting is they give you a camera very similar to something like Pokemon Snap. And what you have to do is go around in the world and take pictures of objects in order to get ideas, then to store these ideas. And so, like for instance, your first task as an inventor is to take a picture of a milk can and a set of pipes and a belt. So that way you can make this battery pack system. Now, I don't know how you're actually going to make a battery out of a milk can, a belt, and some pipes. That seems a little crazy, but you know, hey, it's video game logic. I'm here for it. I don't care. This is there's an evil flying clown trying to kill me. Okay, we can suspend our disbelief here for a little bit, I think. But it's a cool system, and what's really neat about it, I think, is that you can take pictures of so many different things and add them to your like recipe list to, you know, order to craft these recipes. And of course, like once you unlock the recipe, you still have to get the materials and put the, you know, item or whatever it is together, of course, right? But what's cool about it, what I really like about it is that you're constantly now like on the lookout throughout the world. Whether you're just like going to town to buy some bread so you can go back and finish a dungeon, or you're in the middle of a dungeon or something, it's like, I don't know, you have this camera with you at all times, you can use it anywhere, and you're constantly like looking at the environment now in a different way. You know, you're constantly searching, oh, is this an item that I can use? Is this something I can use as like a recipe? Or is what, you know, can I use this? Can I use this? And it just adds like another layer of depth, I think, to the game, and another thing to do in the game, which I think is really cool. And, you know, to go back to the robot too, I mean, this robot essentially becomes like one of your party members, and you can pilot him literally at any time in a dungeon. All you have to do is click in the right thumbstick and then boom, robot mode. And of course, like you can't use him indefinitely. He runs on fuel, so you always have to like refuel him. But it's just such a cool thing because you can defeat enemies with him and gain experience, and you can customize the robot. You can buy different arms or a core or legs for him and sort of build him kind of how you want to. And also, I mean, there, you know, and this is actually kind of like more of a complaint, really, but I guess it does add another layer of depth to the dungeons, is that there are some enemies in the dungeons that you really can only defeat with the robot. Like they're just too big and they're too powerful to defeat on your own. Trust me, I spent like 10 minutes trying to kill this Vanguard here in the first dungeon because I ran out of gas in my robot, and I didn't feel like going back into town to refuel him because I was lazy. So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna try to fight him on my own. It took forever. I mean, I ended up doing it, but it was tough. I used like all my healing items, and it was not worth it at all. Like I should have just went back and, you know, refueled the freaking robot. You know, just get in the robot, Shinji. You know, but. So I don't know. In a way, I kind of don't like that because, I don't like sort of being constrained and forced to use things that I don't want to do. But on the other hand, it does add like a little layer of depth and it breaks up the monotony of how you play the game too. So, you know, I'll split the difference on it and say I'm pretty neutral on that aspect of it. But I do think it's cool. I do think the robot is cool. It's a giant steampunk kind of robot thing. You know, it's neat. I think it's cool, and I think it's neat. I'm happy that the game has it, and you know, it adds another layer of like customization and stuff. So, and speaking of party members, you actually do unlock other party members too after you finish the first dungeon, which honestly took me like 3 hours to do. then you finally unlock the girl to play in the game as a party member, and her, you know, she's a little bit different. She uses magic instead of guns, and you know, she still has a sword and still plays like very similarly to Max. But I think it's cool because if she dies, for instance, and faints, then you just switch party members, and then you can switch to Max. So you can kind of really, you know, use that to your advantage, and it just kind of changes the way that you play a little bit, which is neat. And again, you can switch to these characters completely on the fly. You can just click in the left thumbstick button or just go to your menu, switch characters, which is really cool. And I like that a lot. I like that, you know, it's not like your traditional like JRPG where it's like I'm so glad they didn't do like the AI companion thing, you know, where it's like some random AI character is like running around and, you know, just being dumb. Because I mean, especially for PS2 games, like AI is not that great. There's, you know, there's some complaints, but so it again, just cool. Just again, just from the first like 3 or 4 hours of playing this game, it's like constantly building on itself and constantly giving you new ways to play the game and opening up more and more and more. And it's not holding your hand or trying to dumb things down for you, but it's also not so overly complicated that like you'd have to have a degree from Stanford to try to figure out either. You know, the game is telling you to experiment and have fun, and I miss when games used to do that, you know. And there's one aspect that I haven't talked about yet. I didn't actually capture any footage of it because I just wanted to get this video out, but it's a feature that was sort of you know, when I first played this game back in the day, I was like, okay, so where's like the building from your first Dark Cloud game? Because like I loved that aspect of like building my little town and setting things how I wanted to set it and customizing it. And so I was like really disappointed. I'm playing like the first 3 or 4 hours. I'm like, when do I get to build stuff? You know, like when do I get to do that? You do. So you actually do. Like they introduced that after the first dungeon. Like, well, technically after like the second dungeon, like halfway through. Dude, Willa, please, dude. But the building is back, and it takes a long time for you to unlock it. You know, again, like 4 or 5 hours maybe into the game. But it's back, and you get to build stuff just like in the first Dark Cloud game, and it's awesome. And it's actually a little bit better than in the first Dark Cloud game. And that's kind of like this game being a sequel to Dark Cloud, it almost doesn't even feel like the same game because there's so much more that they did with this game. So many different systems, in addition to having the building, the sort of revolutionary concept from the first Dark Cloud game. You know, there's fishing, there's cooking, there's item synthesis, there's crafting, there's a camera system, there's multiple party members, you know, a better story, better voice acting, a better art style. You know, I love the first Dark Cloud game. Like, I'm not trying to like poo-poo on that game at all. I own it. I love it. It'll always like be pretty near and dear to my heart, and I think that like, I would recommend it too as like a fun game. But if you really only have time for one, man, Dark Cloud 2 is the one to play. I think it's one of the best PS2 games of all time. I think probably top 5 or top 10 maybe for me. It's so good. It's cozy, it's atmospheric, it's fun, it's deep, it's intricate. There's so much to do in this game, and it just kind of keeps you coming back, and you just constantly want to play more and more and more and keep going and keep going and keep going, because you're like, you keep unlocking stuff. The more that you play it, like the deeper that you get, the more, you know, the further you get into a dungeon, you know, it just continues to like unravel itself. This game's like a tasty onion where there's layers upon layers and layers of it, and they just don't make games like this anymore, you know. I always try to keep in mind whenever I'm recommending games like this to people, like, I don't know, would like a modern audience be able to pick up this game and like play it? And I don't know, I feel like the combat could be alienating and boring for some people because it's pretty simple. It's like, admittedly, you know, on the surface the combat is pretty simple, and it could get like old after a while, especially if you're kind of like a Fortnite zoomer, you know. But I think the game is worth a chance, you know. If you like Zelda games like Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask, or if you like games like Kingdom Hearts, I think the game plays a lot like Kingdom Hearts in a lot of ways. It sort of has that same coziness factor too, of that like first town in Kingdom Hearts. You know, was it Twilight Town? I'm not a big Kingdom Hearts guy, but I've played them. You know? But I don't know, man. I think it's worth it, even if you don't necessarily love the combat of this game. I think it's still worth playing, giving a chance, because I think it just does so many other things well, and you're just not ever going to see a game, I think, of this caliber ever again, unfortunately. You know, it's sad when I talk about these games. I always get kind of like depressed a little bit, because, you know, modern gaming now is just, you know, I hate to like keep rambling on about it, but it's just in such a bad state. I don't think that they could. I don't think that there's game developers out there with the talent to make a game of this caliber. This level of heart and soul and ingenuity and creativity, you know, it's definitely a relic from the past. But and I mean that as a compliment, not as a detraction. There's Willig and Bark, and she just can't stop apparently. But yeah, I love this game, man. I love it a lot. I think you should definitely play it. I think it's available on the PlayStation Store for the PS5, if I'm not mistaken, or the PS4. You know, I think it's on the PS4 for sure. If you have a PS4, it's definitely worth playing. Or, you know, it's not that expensive of a game to buy if you were to go out and buy it, you know, on the internet or something for your original PS2. It's like $30-$40, something like that, which is, you know, kind of pricey for a PS2 game, but it's worth it. You'll get your, I'm telling you right now, you'll get your money's worth out of it. And of course, there's always emulation. You know, you can always do that as well. But you know me, I'm a big fan of owning and collecting physical media. I think it's very good to do, and it's cool, and I like my little shelf with all my games on it. It looks nice, and it's cozy, and I like it. I like my little game corner. So, but yeah, Dark Cloud 2, I couldn't recommend it enough, and I think that you'll like it if you've never played it. And you know, you don't have to play the first one in order to jump into the second one. They really have nothing in common story-wise with one another. But I would recommend, like, don't skip the first one either. The first one's really good too. It's just that I think the second one's just better in every way. I do. I think the second one, it just improves upon everything that the first one did. Just better in every way. And so I'd highly recommend Dark Cloud 2. It's such a terrific game. I can't even really put into words how much fun that I had just like recording this video and playing this game, because I just love it. And I'm probably gonna keep playing it after I finish this next video I'm working on, which is gonna be kind of you know, I don't know, I'm not gonna tease it, but anyways, yeah, Dark Cloud 2, play it. It's awesome. You won't regret it. And if you do regret it, like, come yell at me in the comments. You know, I do read the comments. I may not respond to all of them, but I do read the comments. So let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like Dark Cloud 2? Because like I almost made a video of like 5 hidden PS2 gems, and I was going to include that, but I'm like, I don't know, is Dark Cloud 2 a hidden gem? Like, I don't know if it is or it isn't. I mean, I feel like it's like kind of a popular game, but I'm not really like tapped in on what's like kind of popular for the PS2. So I feel like, you know, when you're talking about like games that aren't hidden gems, you know, like there's like the Grand Theft Autos and like the Final Fantasy, like those games, obviously, you know, Kingdom Hearts, Tony Hawk, like those aren't hidden gems. But I don't know if Dark Cloud 2 would fall into that category. So I was like, well, I won't put it in there because I feel like it's kind of popular, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But either way, I do plan on doing like a 5 hidden gems PS2 video. So if you guys have any ideas for games that I should check out for that video, also, you know, drop a comment in the comment box and let me know if there's anything worth checking out. I've got a pretty good list right now, but you know, if there's something else that I should throw in there, let me know. And of course, join the Discord, become a member on the channel. and come hang out with us. We're we hang out and stuff with all the members on the Discord and voice talk and chat about games and stuff. So yeah, be sure to do that. Like and subscribe, turn on the bell, get your notifications. Watch my live streams here on YouTube, very inconsistently, but usually pretty late at night. I try to stream, just talk about stuff, so check those out. And yeah, this is way too long. This is way too long. But thank you guys for hanging out and watching this big, long video of mine. I appreciate all the support. I love you guys. God bless. I'll see you on the next one. Christ is King. And I love you guys. Bye.